You can see that I've sketched in the skeleton outline for these two girls here sitting at a table, so there's only half the body showing, and that's quite a frequent scenario that you'll get, particularly if you do a cafe scene. We've got the young waiter here, again only half his body is showing. This bloke here who's working on the wooden frame, and we'll have a look at the other waiter, and also we'll pick up how to deal with these young children as well. Right, now I'm starting off with these two girls here. They're laughing and smiling, their body language is quite close to each other, they're leaning slightly towards each other, and above all, their actions mirror each other, and that's always a good indication that people together like that are in rapport with each other. Right, now the girl is in some slight shadow here, and we've got the elbow like that. This is going to actually dry out a lot lighter than it is at the moment. There's just a little bit of red showing on that side, which is important again, and a little bit of the neck. She's got a little bit of a sort of a ponytail, and a little bit in front of her ear there like that. Right, I've just added a bit more strength in the hair, a bit more length in the hair as well, so there's a little bit more shadow. You can see that's just coming around. Some very fine detail, well, not too much detail. It's really because the girl's hair sort of falls across her face. We've got some of the pattern of the blue top, which helps to give the shape of the arms. We've strengthened some of the darks in the hair to make it a little more apparent that it's flowing down over the girl's top here. Oh, and I've just taken a little bit of paint out of the face just to give a little bit of light falling on the faces, but apart from that there's nothing else we need to do. Right, now next on the list are these two waiters here, and you can see that they're both wearing some sort of a waistcoat or overall that waiters wear. So in this case the guy has got some sort of overall on like that. He's got his tie tucked inside, and then all that's showing here is almost like a little wedge shape where his hand is. Okay, while that's been drying, I've just done some work on this waiter here. He's got a yellow ochre shirt, and although in a very dark grey or even a black suit, you can see with the light shining on it how it's almost a very, very pale grey here. Get back to the waiter at the top. He's got very dark hair with a very distinctive part in the middle like that. This is probably going to need to be a little bit darker in one or two areas. It's going to dry a little bit lighter than it looks at the moment. Right, now before we get round to anything else, I'm going to add some very pale grey just to give some modelling to his shirt. Now to get this very dark colour, incidentally, I'm just using ultramarine and burnt umber again. It's one of my favourite mixes. It's very, very simple to produce and produces consistent results. Okay, and then finally just a little bit of shadow underneath the left arm here like that, certainly where he's carrying the plate. So there we are, he's carrying the plate on his arm, a little bit of modelling to the plate, a little bit more modelling to the tie to give it a bit of three dimension, and we've got a very simple, I was going to say a simple waiter. I'm sure he wouldn't appreciate that comment, but you can see that relatively speaking these waiters are not difficult to produce. Well, this little lad looks like he's rocking back on his heels slightly, so we'll try and replicate that. A nice light colour for the face, nice pinky sort of neck. You can see his face actually comes down quite close to his neck. Well, it would do, wouldn't it? What am I saying? His face comes down quite close to his shoulders. That's what I was trying to say. And just a tiny little strip of arm there. We can go over that in a little while. If we do too much, we can paint over it with his top. Paint more face than you can actually see. You can always paint over it if you have to later on. And then here, his hands are sort of coming back on themselves like that out of the bottom of his pullover, and that one there is resting on his knee. Now you can see the way that's run into his arms there. I'm not worried about that because that's all part of the hit and miss process of watercolour, and it's actually quite an attractive little feature of it. Something to be encouraged. And he's hunched his shoulders a little bit, like he's not quite sure about what's going on in the water in front of him. He's interested, but he doesn't want to get too involved if he can help it until he's a bit more sure about what's actually going on. Typical little lad's trousers. They're about perhaps 3 sizes too long for him, so they're rucked up there. Anything but tidy, anything but pristine and immaculate. Right, now you can see I'm just bringing that sleeve down to his hand, and I've left that tiny little fleck of light. You can see that. That's very useful, if not essential, just helps to give a little bit of modelling and form to where the arms and the body actually separate out. You can see here that even though his skeleton leg went down here and down here, the trousers I'm actually bringing down like that, because obviously the trousers are much wider than a single bone in a skeleton leg. Just bring down carefully, create an ear. You see the way you create an ear, and that's fine. This young man's got a sort of a much more blondie, sort of slightly wavy thatch of hair like that. It's quite rough ground, so it's not that easy to pick out where one shadow starts and another one finishes. We might put just a little bit of brown on the trousers, a little bit of raw umber for the shadow areas, just to give that nice crumpled, typical lad's pair of trousers look. I always used to get moaned at when I was their age, still do. Just a different person that moans. Right, you can see I've just put a few touches of shadow on the face and on the hands and on the arms there. Again, I'm not worried about too much detail, and we'll let that dry off. Okay, for this one, where the guy is actually nailing or working on a board, now you can see there the way the shirt pulls underneath his armpit there and across his waist here. That's the big part of the thigh, and then it comes down something like that. Now in this case, the shoe needs to be part of the scene because it's actually very much supporting that back foot, or this front foot rather. Next, we'll just paint an impression of 2 or 3 wooden beams, just so it's quite clear what he's actually supposed to be working on, like that. Right, well you can see I've added some shadow underneath the knee here to anchor this knee firmly to the floor, and I've put a sort of a general shadow of the whole figure running over here as if the light is coming from this direction. I've just put a touch of the shadows from these beams just for a bit of consistency. So there we are, you've got a page full of a number of different poses for different types of people. So I hope you will have a go at this using that simple skeleton outline and see how well it can work for you.